All right. Welcome to the first edition of the Builder's Mindset. I'm Mike DiGiovanni with Amazing Mindsets, and thank you very much for joining us for this hopefully first of many episodes to come. And we're going to kick off this first episode where I'm going to do a little review of the earnings report that I released. If you'd like to get a copy of the earnings report summary that I put out a few weeks back, we'll put the link in the show notes below where you can sign up for the newsletter and get an instant copy of that report. But I know not everybody likes to read. I didn't used to like to read, and I'm kind of on a little bit of a hiatus from reading right now. I'm producing more than consuming. And so I thought I would do that for the first episode. Now, step back real quick. So the Builder's Mindset podcast, officially here we're launching September the 9th. And the plan is to release an episode every Monday and to alternate between episodes with just me, reviewing certain aspects of the market, certain topics that I hear requests from either you, the listeners, or my clients or other folks who would like to hear a little bit more. I'll do some research and come back on that, alternating those with bringing in a guest, an expert from the industry who can hopefully add value to the prior discussion. That'll be the plan. We'll bring somebody in the week after to dive deeper into that. So hopefully next week, we'll see. It's going to be a little tight schedule because I committed to releasing on September 9th. And I'm a little behind schedule in all honesty, but hey, it is what it is. Here I am. So like I said, we'll cover a topic one week, and then the following week, the plan is to bring in an industry expert, somebody that you may or may not know, but who can add some much deeper value than I can to the discussion that we're talking about to help us better understand the nuance of the market. Because otherwise we're left to what? The headlines. And if you watched any of my posts last couple weeks, what you'll see is the headlines they don't even understand the data, in my opinion. And to be quite honest, when I listen to some of the earnings reports, I usually listen to between 4 and 6 of them each quarter. I can't do all of them. It turns out when the Q&A comes up that some of the analysts seem to have a better understanding and a better grasp of the home building industry. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't because there's people who fill in. Sometimes, for other people can't make the call, so they'll have somebody sit in and ask the specific questions. But like the headlines we're talking about, like all the hubbub about the July starts being, oh my God, egregiously lower than June this year. That market's going to implode. It's horrible. Oh, blah, 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 blah. And as I pointed out by looking back at the data, 6 of the last 10 years, July starts have been less than June. 13 of the last 25 years, the July starts have been less than June. It just depends on where we're at in the cycle of that year. It's a cyclical and seasonal business. And so, we'll take an opportunity to dive into a topic and then bring an expert on who can help us better understand what's going on with those numbers. Some of those topics will be supply chain, purchasing. Sometimes we'll talk about scheduling, customer service, best practices. And by all means, please, I hope you subscribe to the show, and please feel free to reach out to us in the comments. Let us know if there's a certain topic that you would like us to cover. We'd be happy to, and we'd look forward to it. The other plan with the show weekly is for the show to be between 15 and 20 minutes. Something that you can digest in the course of your commute to or from work. And if you don't commute to or from work and you work from home or whatever the case may be, just something short and digestible. So the plan will be, I don't want to really spoil it, but when we have the guests on, we're going to focus on 3 main questions with each of the guests. And it will be centered around the topic and then what those guests feel is pertinent to the industry around that topic or in general. We may let them go kind of off book a little bit and tell us what they think is the most pressing issue in the industry today. And the guide will be to try to get the answers to those 3 questions and that discussion around that in about 5 or 6 minutes. So there we end up with between 15 and 20 minutes. We'll keep them short, get to the point. And then hopefully each week we can cover as many topics over the course of the year as possible. And so without further ado, let's go in and we'll spend this first session. I'll give you a high-level overview of the top public home builders summary and assessment for kind of Q2. Essentially, it was like we waited until the latter part of July. I think it was July 24th when most of the earnings were out and reported. Whether it was, some of them are off, some of the builders are off by a month from a fiscal year end. Some of them were off by 3 months, so this really was like their third quarter. But essentially, we're gonna put them out on the cadence every quarter relative to the majority of the builders. And there's 22, I believe, 22 public home builders. I believe that's going to go down to 21 now that Sekisui and Richmond American purchased, merged, whatever you want to call it. But I believe next quarter there will only be one of those left. So I think it'll be 21. And then this round, I only did 14 because I was focusing on the top 20. There were 16 in the top 20, but I left out Sekisui and Richmond just because at times of mergers and those things happening, I didn't really want to get too deep into the weeds of that data. So anyway, as I said, if you want the full report, click the link. We'll put it in the bio, in the show notes below, and you'll get on the newsletter, and then that'll also get you access to the future reports every quarter as they come out, and if you want to dive deeper. But right now, we're going to take a little bit of time, and we're going to go over some of the high points, and I'll kind of show you. I'm looking through my screen. This is kind of what you will get. If you subscribe to the newsletter, you're going to get this spreadsheet that I put together that has various data points for each of the builders. I highlighted blue, the one that had the highest performing stat in that measure. And then you'll also get basically what we'll talk about is you'll see we've got like a summary. The market summary is a couple pages, and then I do a little synopsis on each of the public builders. So the whole report actually ended up being about 10 pages, but it's in bite-sized chunks. After the summary, which is a couple of pages, you can focus on what builders you want to read about. Just give you a quick high level, some of the high points. So let's jump in because we do want to keep today's 15 minutes or less. And once again, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. If you like what you hear here, please do me a couple things. Subscribe, that'll help out a lot. Share this with friends and other folks in the industry. We're trying to get the word out of what we're doing and what we're sharing here. And then also leave us some feedback and comments. If there's topics that you want us to cover, we'd be happy to. I just love talking about all things home building. I've been in the home building industry for about 20 years now. Really enjoy it. It's a very, in my opinion, a wonderful industry, a noble profession. We get to build homes and communities where people raise families and make memories. It's just an amazing industry that I've been blessed to be a part of for the last 20 years. And so let me know if there's something you want to hear. Let's dive in. So really high level, I'm going to jump to the summary, and it was there was so much optimism on all of the reports that I listened to, and it was just amazing how optimistic the builders were, considering how deep we are into the current market cycle. And I could do a whole segment on market cycles. This one is the weirdest one that I've either been in and read about. So having only been in the home building industry for 20 years, I've really kind of only got these last couple of cycles that I've gone through. I didn't personally, go through the ones of the early, sort of say the 90s and the 80s. I wasn't in the industry yet at that point in time. In the 90s, I was in another industry, but so much optimism from all of the builders, even with the headwinds that they were experiencing. And high level, what I took away on the headwinds was that the cost of land and the cost to develop land continues to be a pressure point for home builders and squeezing their margins. The interest rates are making it difficult to raise prices, if at all. The interest rates are also taking a chip out of the margins because they're having to buy rates down. They're trying to get operationally more efficient. There was lots and lots of talk about focus on excellence, focus on operations, and there was a lot of discussion about choppy, volatile, and uncertainty because of interest rates and affordability. But still, like, amazingly optimistic was like the overall sentiment. And I'm in agreement with the optimism. Even with the face of 7% interest rates, homes have still been selling, and it's, there's a demand. I truly believe there's inherent demand right now for homes. I believe millennials have not really begun to tap into the home buying market. And I think that's gonna continue to get us through what we're working through now. And I think that proved itself out. Go back to the headlines that I was talking about, right? Like, all these headlines came out, I want to say it was like August 15th and 16th, about the housing starts in July. And if you read them, and if you could watch my post and go check out my post on LinkedIn, you'd have thought literally that we were in the next home building recession. And then literally the next week, the sales data for new home construction comes out the next week for July sales data. And the headline come out that sales in July for new homes were awesome, incredible, year over year, sequentially month over month, just a really strong sales month for new homes on the national level when you look at that level. And so, as I say, you got to dig a little bit deeper into the data. So there's a lot of optimism from home builders, but like I said, there's caution in terms of the choppiness and volatility, mostly due to interest rates and affordability. Those are two of the big issues that are really pressing down on releasing that demand and getting that demand to show up and actually execute. But they did show up in July, which was a good thing because it's a little later in the seasonality of the year too. And and so with that, there were some really, really amazing high points. I mean, if you look at D.R. Horton had over 23,000 net sales. Lennar and KB, in my opinion, just over the top in terms of their sales per community per week, their absorption rate. Lennar came in and was at 5.7, and KB was at 5.5, a close second behind those. Those are phenomenal numbers, and I think that speaks to the resiliency of the market. Interest rates hit 7% in October of 2022, and in the second quarter of 2024, you have builders selling over 4, which is kind of a good threshold. 3 is kind of like a really good benchmark. If you're over 3, things are pretty good. You'll weather a storm. Under 3, we start to get nervous. You get over 4, and it's really good. Over 5, just amazing. And so, we had, I want to say, I'm doing the math, 1, 2, 3 other builders that had reported absorption rates of over 4 per month, and 1, 2, 3 reporting over 3 per month. So 3 over 3 per month, 3 over 4 per month, and 2 over 5 per month. Now, certain builders don't really report that data specifically, so it's hard to tell. So there's 3 in there that are really difficult to figure out if that's the case or what their number really is. But those are strong numbers that I think speak to the demand that is out in the market today. Some of the other high points that we see, companies like LGI, Meritage Homes, and D.R. Horton continue to really, Century Communities with their Century Complete, really trying to push and answer this affordability. And most of them, with the exception of Meritage, have average sales prices still in the 300,000s, which is pretty amazing in today's environment. So what I mentioned is like all of the headwinds that the builders would talk about was in the area of like interest rates is one big issue, and then land prices and land development costs. So they're seeing their land development costs go up. They're seeing their land prices continue to go up, and I believe a couple of them mentioned that they expect that to continue. But with that, they're doing things to be operationally more efficient, to build houses quicker and faster. With Lennar reporting 150 calendar days, Meritage reporting 120 calendar days. And so they're doing everything they can to be as efficient as possible to keep the cost of those homes down, because the quicker they can build a house, the less interest carry they have, the faster the turns. And so that can help those numbers, so they're working on that. And then there was a lot of talk about trying to get their costs down. I know lots of builders in certain markets are reevaluating their spec levels. They're doing everything they can to try to stay as affordable as possible. And I would say this, and for those of you who work with me, you know I'm a huge advocate of entry level, lower price. I would say, like, if there's ever a time for you to evaluate your business and do what I call the need versus want analysis for your consumer, it's now. And you need to look at what you're putting in homes and decide, is this a need for the buyer or is it a want for the buyer? And be very, very careful on how many wants you include, because every little bit you're putting up into that, every want you put into that house increases that home cost, increases that home price, or with affordability, you're going to have to take a little hit on your margins, or you're going to have to lower your absorption rate because your costs are going to go up. So that's some of the high level points there. Essentially, like almost every builder did really, really well in their overall numbers. I might go a little deeper. We're coming up on the end of the 15 minutes. We're actually a little further than I'd hoped to go, but some of the builders, in my opinion, are doing a little bit better about their execution, a little bit better about their turnover of their sales. And some not so much. Some are having lower absorptions, and I think that lower absorption is gonna hurt for them over the long haul. However, it could play a little bit to their advantage in that, as we talked about, back when interest rates hit 7% of October 2022, a lot of builders took their foot off the gas and stopped buying land for about 6 months, or stopped moving land deals forward for about 6 months. We're in this window of time right now that we're seeing where that's coming to pass. There's not a lot of projects going out to bid right now because of that. We're also seeing a lot of bids that are getting reworked, renegotiated. I'm starting to hear talks of rebids, and not just for performance. Some of it is for reevaluation of cost and price. And so, builders are doing whatever they can to try to get that cost down, because that land cost and that land development cost at this point in time, if you're building houses already, it's fixed. Like, for the most part, there's not a lot you can do. The last things that you can do to be more affordable in a home is you can de-spec a home. You can redesign a home, which takes a whole lot of work with municipalities. You can be more efficient, building them quicker to try to get your carry costs down. Or you can go back and renegotiate and rebid, and you can, on new communities, you can get a bit more aggressive on your bidding. It's just, at the end of the day, when margins start to get pinched because of land costs and land development costs, and then interest rates staying up, that's all you've got left is, can we build them a little bit faster, and can we build them a little bit cheaper, or less expensive, and still deliver the same quality of product that we're after. And there are builders out there on this list that we're looking at that, in my opinion, I applaud them. They're doing a phenomenal job at turning their inventory really quickly, getting it done, and delivering a top quality home, getting great customer satisfaction, getting great, trusted customer awards. You name it, they're figuring out how to make it happen and how to make it work. So, with that, like I said, click the link in the show notes so you can get a copy of the full report and read it at your leisure. Please subscribe for the show, The Builder's Mindset, and we look forward to bringing more builder topics each week. If you have any ideas or topics, share them with us. We're looking forward to seeing you, talking to you each week. I hope you have an amazing week, and we'll see you next Monday.